Inspiration. My name is Felix Dadzie, and today we'll be having an amazing time. And I told you we've started an education series, and today myself, before I started the interview, I was educated on something, and I'll let you know what I was educated on. My name is Felix Dadzie, and we're live on Truth TV on your multi-TV dial. This shows every Saturday at 6 p.m. and on Thursdays at 6 p.m. And you can alternatively log on to Facebook on our page INSPIRATION with Felix Dadzie, that is Inspiration with Felix Dadzie on YouTube. We want you to subscribe so your friends and your loved ones can also get to enjoy whatever that is going on here. Well, today I'll be talking to someone I consider a mentor, someone I consider as I should say I look up to him in terms of media as a role model. From GBC days, I have been following his passion and also the way he delivers excellently. And I trust that today's episode will be inspirational to you. One of the things we do here is we work on your mind, we work on your mindset, we inspire you so that you can achieve greater heights in life. Well, I'll go for a quick break. When I come back, my guest for today, he is the Executive Director of Truth TV, is an AIDS media practitioner. I worked with GBC 4 years. And,
a lecturer.
He's a lecturer too. And I trust that you will be inspired, I know. Especially if you want to enter the business of multimedia or television or journalism, is the best person you can talk to. After this break, don't go anywhere, we'll get to talk. Welcome back. You're still watching Inspiration right here on Truth TV. Don't forget on YouTube it is Inspiration with Felix Dadzie. Want to find out what you think about this conversation and whatever question you have for my guest for today, get to ask them all on that page. And in our next episode, we'll get to ask him all that. My guest for today, I have Abdulhana too. Welcome. He should welcome me because I'm in his office today. I would be Mr. Conrad Kakraba.
Yes.
Welcome.
Felix Dadzie. Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Good to see you again, and I'm very privileged that we're having this conversation in my office today. Right. Very happy to see you.
You have a beautiful office.
Oh, please. We just moved here and we're trying to set up. Yeah.
All right. Well, you have been an inspiration to a lot of media practitioners, and I'm no exemption. You really inspired us in the area of newscasting. Growing up, did you know this was all you were going to do?
No, I mean, when I started, I wanted to be in the sciences, and I told you that I had a rude awakening to the fact that I wasn't very mathematically inclined. Okay. And for you to be in the sciences, for you to be a doctor, for example, you had to really be very, very sharp, like those guys that you see on the National Science and Math quiz, you know.
What color is palm oil? And they have to respond fast, you know.
and I'm always watching it because I'm amazed. I'm thrilled by the display of knowledge. Mm-hmm. The fact that people are so knowledgeable. Young kids, I mean, they're learning a lot. And they have all these formulae and all this physics and chemistry. That is something that I've always wanted to do, but I've not been able to. And I saw that human beings are wired differently. That was one of the things that I learned so early in life, that you can't force yourself to be what you're not. You have to make sure that you're really, really discovering who you are. And that journey of life, you must pursue it. If you haven't found it yet, then you haven't really started living. So I had the rude awakening to the fact that I wasn't really wired to be scientific in thought and analytical in that sphere of knowledge. Okay. I was linguistically wired. Okay. I was wired to be verbally, intelligent, to use words, to be able to communicate with people, to have social relationships and interpersonal relationships, to be able to understand things and explain them to people in a certain way. That was what I was wired to be. And so I didn't blame myself for not really getting into the media space early, but I had to discover that I was having some talent and I needed to build upon that talent. From secondary school especially, I decided that I would really pursue the languages. So I started off with science. In my first interview with you, I told you that I started off with science. Okay. But I wasn't doing well. And I wasn't passionate about it. I wasn't opening the science books.
Were you the traditional part of the traditional student that were told you're good in school, so you should pursue science?
Of course, that's exactly what my situation was like. From my village, I was a village champion in terms of education. I was the
Where
best.
are you from?
I'm from Sancho Kofi. That's Sancho Kofi, Bodome. It's the town just after Hohwe in the Volta region. Okay. And so we are the barrier between Oti region and Volta region. So our hometown, my town is where Oti region begins from. Exactly. So I was a good student. I had I didn't get any one, but I had two, throughout, and then 1, 3 or something, I think in Ebe. And then, so I had admission, aggregate 12, I had admission to St. Mary's Seminary Secondary School in the then Volta region, now Uti region, and I chose science actually because it was a premium course, and I was offered that. But when it was time for me to change, because I wasn't really interested in it any longer, it was difficult. The school didn't want to change it. So later on, I discussed with my father, who was mathematically inclined. He was a math teacher, he was a science teacher, but none of his children was like him. So I discussed with him and he said, Conrad, I will pay your fees if you want to repeat, because I wanted to repeat and then change over to the general arts. And he did that. Wow. And yeah, in fact, today is exactly 1 year that he passed away. Yeah, so it's a very memorable period for me, because I'm trying to remember what he did for me. It's not every parent that can do that, because for you to really understand your child and understand their passion.
And at that time, science.
You
wanted to become a doctor.
Every parent would hail you and say, why do you want to move away from this prestigious profession to something that nobody even knows? Because you couldn't really tell what exactly you wanted to become. And it wasn't a well-respected profession, So I started writing. And then I became the overall best student in my school for my level for English. Okay. And debating. I was representing my school, and the national competitions, essay writing competitions, I was just topping, and came to Accra to receive awards from the then vice president, the late Aliu Mahama. Junior graphic debates, I was writing them, I was winning. So everybody saw that this gentleman is now interested in this, and he's putting in his best, he's doing his best. The school also awarded me, so that was how I really developed my skill and talent in writing and speaking and all of that. And at the end of it all, I had A in English at the WASI, and then A in history, and then B in every other subject, and then and capital E in mathematics. That was my SSC results, 2003 that I wrote. And then at that time, E was admissible to the universities. And so I applied to Cape Verde and then UG, University of Ghana. Both of them offered me admission because what I was going to study was really languages, and I was given English, linguistics, history by University of Ghana. And I went there to study that. And then I finished up with English and I minored in linguistics, and I was the best graduating student in my department that year, 2008. Wow. The only major student who had a first class. And so that was something that led me into establishing myself, that I was really interested in using language communication to either teach or broadcast or preach or write or so that was my experience.
Okay. Wow, that's amazing. I could listen to you over and over. But let's talk about your journey into newscasting. How did you know that you could? Because you read very well.
Oh, please. You're flattering me now.
I'm telling you that you read very well.
Well,
how did you get into that? How did you know that this is what I can really do well?
So when I started in senior high school, I told you that because I was exploring with the language, the English language, I loved the language, and I wanted to explore and see what was the extent that this language could go with me. And so I was doing a lot of the readings. I was doing a lot of reading, I was doing a lot of writing, and I was doing a lot of speaking with my colleagues. I was a talkative, though, at first I was very reserved, but later on I became very talkative, and that helped me to really practice with the language. Then later on, when I went to the university, there was Radio Universe, at the University of Ghana, the campus radio station. And so I started going there to practice. I wanted to know how to be on radio, how to speak into the microphone, how to enunciate properly, and how to make sure that, you are able to converse with people. And so I did that for some time. It was just poetry. It was Open Air Theatre. That was the name of the show. And I did that for some time, and I noticed that I was really getting interested in the media. And then when we finished Legon in 2008, my passion also lay in teaching. I wanted to also teach. I loved to teach because while I was in school, I was helping a lot of my colleagues who didn't understand anything when it came to university. Of course. I mean, it was difficult reading English. I mean, we were 600 who were admitted in level 100 to read English. When we were graduating, we were only 4.
Wow.
Who majored in English.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not that easy to read English at the university. So you must have real passion, real mettle, real persistence to really go through the course. And I was lucky to have made it and had a first class. And then when I applied to the University of Ghana to read a master's in English, an MPhil in English, I didn't get admission that year.
Wow, were you surprised?
Of course I was. I mean, how can the best graduating student in that department, the only major student who had a first class in that department, would not get admitted into the master's degree program? It was very strange, and my colleagues who had second class upper, and all of that had admission. And so I was like, okay, there must be something. And I was also a TA in the department. I was a tutorial assistant for my national service.
Were you hurt?
Yeah, very hurt. But I later got to understand that God's plans are not man's plans. God, it's a word, man proposes, God disposes. But whatever God is leading you to may be better. So you have to just wait and then see. And I noticed that there was a bigger plan for me, a bigger plan. So when I got disappointed, in fact, the head of department came to me and was like, Conrad, why didn't you make it? And I was like, no, you should be telling me why I didn't make it. I can't tell because I'm not part of the admissions committee, So I saw that it was a bigger plan, and what happened was that at the same time, I actually prayed a prayer to God, that there was an opportunity for me to be at GBC. GBC was looking for newscasters, Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, and then I also applied to Legon for my master's. So I was actually praying to God, God help me to choose. Should I go and work just after finish my national service, or I should continue with education? And God said, well, you need to go and get some experience. And so GBC's offer came. I was shortlisted for selection examination. We went to write, about 100 of us went to write the selection examination. I understand there were so many others who applied, over 400 or 500 or so who applied, but 100 were shortlisted. And then we went to write the examination. And then when the results came, my name was on top.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I'm now seeing where God is directing me.
Okay.
And then we went for audition, and I passed there too. We went for interview.
You went to read?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the audition, as a newscaster, you would be given scripts to read with all the cameras on you.
And that was your first time?
That was my first time, of course. And so it was a very... it was an exciting experience, but also very scary. I was nervous, you know. Yeah, you dress up, they'll do makeup on you, and then the cameras and lights and all the cameramen, everybody's just watching you. And when I stepped out, the person who was in the recording room, you know, there was somebody who was recording everything. She called me and said, "Gentleman, come here." And I went there. I was a very shy boy at that time, 24-year-old boy. Okay. And then she was like, "Were you the one reading?" And I said, "Yes." I thought she was going to bash me for some terrible mistakes that I had made. She was like, "You have a very good voice." I said, "Oh my God."
Were you surprised? She said that.
Well, I wasn't surprised. A graduate from Legon who had read English and done phonetics, phonology, morphology, syntax, all of those things. You can't come out and come and read shabbily. So I wasn't surprised, and I did linguistics in addition, which is the scientific study of language. You know, so you cannot come out and then your reading will be terrible. So I wasn't surprised, but at least it came to me as a pleasant surprise, because among all the people who were lined up, and everybody was from Legon, GIJ, AUCC.
And you had no certificate
training. Yeah, I didn't have any training in journalism, so it was new to me. But to have that kind of compliment, I thought that, oh, well, then it looks like I'm making it more. And then we went for, I told you, interview, and then from there, 20 of us were selected. And we went for training at the GBC training school. And then we went through, I think, 3 months of training in different aspects of the things that we had already learned in school, phonetics and all of that. But this one, they customized or tailored it to broadcasting industry, and especially GBC house style. And it was really, really exciting. And then commentary, we did commentary, we learned all those principles with the veterans, you know. Over to you, Joe Latte, oh my God, Roberta Gardner, all the creme de la creme trained us. And we were so excited. That was 2009. You know, and then from there, 7 of us were sent to TV. Yeah, and I was just one of 2 males, myself and Abdul Hayy Mumen. You know, we went to TV, and then 5 ladies, and then the rest were with radio. We all practiced at radio for some time, and then later on, you know, some people's voices are good for radio, and some people's voices and faces are good for TV, and some can do both. And so it came to a time that we could do both radio or TV, whatever it is that you could do. And later on, everybody found their level, and then they chose what exactly they could do very well. Some went into commentating, you know, others went into newscasting, others went into talk show, others went into reporting. So it depends on what you really wanted to do. So that was my journey into journalism, newscasting. Okay. Yeah.
And you left GBC.
Yes.
Okay. How about that? Highlighting a moment of your career. That was the NPP NDC. Should I say
Supreme Court election petition. Yeah,
and you were selected to be the journalist commentary.
Yeah. I was the only journalist that was
accredited.
No, not accredited. That was allowed access into the Chief Justice's courtroom for live reportage on that day. I mean, not for that whole period. And then I did it. Yeah, I did it to the middle, and then Abdul also came to relieve me. So because the case kept dragging, you know,
and you had to go there every day.
You had to go every day. Anytime they were sitting, you had to be there. And
it was on most of the TV stations that was picked.
It was GBC was the only station that was given that privilege to beam it for others to pick, and it was a momentous time for us, and that was the first time ever in Ghana's history that cameras were allowed into a courtroom, and I was privileged to be the first journalist to have that access to be on live TV, to do that kind of broadcast for all TV stations, radio stations, to pick the feed from the interviews with the lawyers of the parties. It was also my first time of stepping in a courtroom to report.
Wow.
Many people many people are surprised about that.
That was your first time?
That was my first time.
Practiced it?
I had never stepped in a circuit court to report before, not even go and sit down and listen to anything. I had never been to district court, high court, or appeal court, none of the courts. I just jumped straight into the Supreme Court to go and do reporting on that particular period, in that particular case. That was also, it was surprising to me myself.
Okay.
How did that happen? I was at church one evening and I was praying, I was singing, I was, in the spirit, and then I had a call, and it was the Director General of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, my boss, Befi Apintin, at that time. And then he said, Conrad, he has a very soft tone that he speaks, Conrad, the Chief Justice just called, and he would like, the Chief Justice at that time, I think, was it Theodora Wood? I've forgotten. Yeah. That she would like us to bring cameras to the Supreme Court, and we need somebody to do commentary, to do the live reporting, live anchoring. And I've not settled on any other person than you. And I said, oh my God, boss, I can't do it. I've never reported from court before. He said, you are the one going. And I said, oh, why? He said, oh, you've done commentary before. You see, I'd had some experience in commentating on live, programs, Independence Parade, inauguration of, I think, President. Yes, I think so, yeah. And then some other live events, and so it wasn't like a new thing to me, only that this is a courtroom, and this is also a high-profile case. Everybody was interested in it, and you can't afford to go and mess up. You can't mess up there. So you must
say things you've not heard,
and you can't just go and say anything, or you just had to be on point. And so what did we do? He gave me at that time, the legal, I think the company secretary or the lawyer for GBC was now the High Commissioner to Kenya, Francisca Ashite Odunton, Mrs. She was also a newscaster. Wow. Exactly. They started with the Giftiantes and all of that. Yeah, and she was the company lawyer at that time. And so what we did was to bring her along to the Supreme Court. She's a lawyer. She understands all of these legal terms and all of that. So I would just start by interviewing her so that, so that she would just be explaining the terminologies and all of that and pink what to expect. Pink sheets and what to expect. And so that's how I started. Okay. So she laid a very comfortable, background for me to now be on and now be able to excel. And that is it. And one lesson I learned from that is, always get prepared. Be ready for opportunities. Don't chicken out. Don't say, I'm not able to. Give it a shot. There is always a first time. And then also learn from those who know how to do it. Don't think that, because you've done some commentating before, and so you would come there and be rattling and all of that. No, it's a special field. You need what we call legalese. That's the language of the lawyers. You need to learn it. You need to know the stuff they're saying there. Yeah. Don't just go there, two known journalists, and you are going. No. Get down and learn from those who are in that field. And then just be learning gradually. And then you can also master the art. So it was good, that time. It was good
at that time. Well, I told you were going to be inspired by this conversation. I'm still here with the one and only Mr. Conrad Kakraba, and he is sharing insightful stuff with us. I'll go for a quick break. When I come back, we'll still be here, but this time we'll delve more into education. And I'll ask you the all-important question. Why did you resign from GTV? Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're still watching us right here on Inspiration with Felix Dadzie. And as I told you, my guest for today is the one and only Mr. Conrad Kakraba. He's the Executive Director of Truth TV. He's an AIDS media personality or practitioner, I should say, worked with GBC. And I said I was going to ask him the all-important question, why did you leave GBC?
All right.
You were in the phase of
well, as at the time I was leaving, I was the only male newscaster, you know, for the major news. Yeah. Yeah, you know, and all my my cloth. Yeah. So you see, there are different stages in one's life.
Okay.
Yeah. And you must not stay at one stage for too long. And you must not also miss out on opportunities that are coming your way. So I served for 6.5 years, I mean almost 7 years at GBC. And then I had, in the process, I had done reporting. I had done, you know...
so you used to go out to report and all that?
Of course. I mean, every person that you see on TV as a newscaster is first a reporter.
Okay.
Yes, you can't do newscasting unless you know how to do reporting. So that's the first thing. Many people think, oh, you know, we just want to come and be on TV and be on... No.
Who will get you the story?
Who will bring you the story for you to come and be reading? Go get a story, learn the principles of journalism, news gathering, and then news reporting. Because newscasting is actually a form of reporting. Exactly. You're just letting the people know that here it is, you know, this is the story. And that's how come they call sometimes news anchors, the Americans, you know. So it's like there's turbulence on the sea and all of that, and the ship has docked, and then you are the anchor. The anchor is what holds the ship to the ground. You are the one who is holding the nation, or whoever it is your audience are, to the ground and letting them know that we have settled, and this is the news, this is the story. You know, that's the whole imagery. And so the idea was that for me, I had learned, you know, reporting, I've done, you know, program production, you know, I'd produced programs that hosted Anas Arimia Anas, for example. Wow. Exactly, Legends of Our Time. I was the producer for that program. And, you know, we brought him to the studio and interviewed him. And then I had also hosted Talking Points sometimes, you know, and then also done Regional Diary and all of that. And I'd done commentary, as I said. I traveled to the president, you know, done documentaries on the late Atta Mills, you know. I traveled outside the country. I went to Austria and then also India. To report. Those were my only 2 international trips. And then, so I've done different aspects of the media. And I felt that, well, there was something new that I had to, you know, take on, a new challenge. So while I was there, while I was at GBC, I was doing my master's. So, you know, I went there with a bachelor's degree. Okay. But as I said, don't just keep at one place for a long time. Keep moving forward, you know. And so I applied to, so I told you that I didn't get the opportunity to do it at Legon, but there was an Indian university, Sikkim Manipal University. They had a learning center in Ghana, SMU, now Academic City. You see, so that was where I did my master's in journalism and mass communication. Okay. And they offered me admission, and I was so excited about the program content and everything, and the pace of how you could combine it with work. I was so excited. And then to also expose you to public relations, marketing communications, advertising, and all of that. Different aspects of communications came together to form that, to have that particular master's degree. So when I did it, then I started also seeing the possibilities of teaching, living the passion of teaching, because I told you I was initially interested in just lecturing, being a lecturer, and then I didn't get the opportunity at Legon, and so I had an opportunity again. Here's what happened. There was this, I was about to travel with Haruna Idrisu. He was the trade minister at that time, and And then I missed the opportunity because I didn't have a passport.
Oh.
My passport wasn't ready as at the time that the trip was, going to be, we were supposed to travel to some African country, Botswana or somewhere like that. And so I missed it. And while I was in the passport office crying, then I met someone who had also come to process a passport for a colleague, and the person said he was a lecturer from Gimpa, and so he asked me questions about, Conrad, why is it that GBC doesn't come to cover Gimpa stories? Yeah, he had also seen me on the Supreme Court case and all of that. He was, he said, Conrad, you do so well, blah, blah, blah. And I said, at that time, all my bosses were schooling at Gimpa.
Okay.
But Gimpa stories don't get covered. Yeah. So I gave him the secret. The secret was simple. The fact that GBC would love to cover all the stories that are happening in Ghana, but they are under-resourced.
Okay.
There were only 7 cameras at that time, as at the time I was working at GBC, 7 cameras in Accra. So each regional capital also has 1 camera, but GBC, the Accra office, the headquarters, had only 7 cameras. 1 is for the president. It has to be assigned to the president. That's the state broadcaster we are talking about. So wherever the president of the country is going, it has to follow him. That's the privilege of being a president. I would love to be that one day.
And that's 1 camera. One national camera.
You can't touch it.
Exactly.
And then the reporter is ready. A presidential correspondent is ready. And then the vice president, also the same thing.
Has a camera?
You have to.
Okay.
The vice president always is doing something. So there's a vice presidential, correspondent, and then there is a camera ready. And you can't say you're going to cover some other story when the vice president is going somewhere. You've got to go. That's the state broadcaster. And then parliament has to get a camera. Okay, so if they are sitting, you have to be there. You are the state broadcaster. You have to be there. And then also there is 1 camera if maybe the wives of the president and the vice are also doing things. You have to follow them. They also have correspondents. So there were different segments of the state architecture that GBC had to cover. So before you will be left with just 1 camera that will be left for roaming around the whole of Accra. It was a big deal. Always, assigning cameras was a big problem. And so I told him that there are ways around this. There are freelancers, stringers who have cameras. And once you have a program, we can let somebody come and cover it for you, and then we'll do the story, and the story will be on TV. Because it's not like we don't like you, and for which reason we don't want to cover your story. So that was what I gave him as a tip, and then he organized a program, and then I got somebody to cover it, and then I worked on the story, and the story was on air. He said, Conrad, is it so easy? And I said, yes, it's just about knowing what to do and who to talk to, and that's it. And then later on, he also called me, and then he was like, I told him some time ago that I wanted to lecture, so was I still interested? Have I finished my master's? I was like, yes, I had just finished my master's, and I was interested. And he was like, okay, there is a course for you to come and teach communication skills. Wow. We were talking Monday, Friday, come and start lecturing. Wow. That's how I started teaching.
Just like that.
Just that.
At the place you went to cry.
Then you meet your savior, one of your saviors. So that's how life is. When you are at the bottom of the pit, that is sometimes the place where you can shoot very high up.
Wow.
And then I found myself. When you are at the bottom of the pit, the valley, that is sometimes a very good place for you. A catapult. You have to go there and back, and then you shoot. And that's it. That was what happened to me. And that's what has happened to me severally in life. And so, and I found myself teaching, Gimpa, the caliber of students, and the managers and CEOs and all of that. Then you, small boy, you are there teaching them. And then later on, then the law faculty noticed that I was at Gimpa. I was teaching at the business school, and they also called me. I should come and teach at the law faculty and teach the law students, WASI graduates who were doing law. And it was an awesome, moment for me at Gimpa there. And then...
And you were still doing GBC too?
I was still doing it. You see, GBC, I mean, media in general, you will work in shifts. And so whenever you are for day, you can do something in the evening. When you are in the evening session, the whole day is yours. You can do things. So it was rotational, and that was really helpful. So that was how I got into education. I mean, real lecturing at the university. Earlier, I was teaching at Ideal College. I mean, throughout my stay at Legon, I was teaching at Ideal College, teaching English and literature and international programs like SAT, TOEFL, GRE, GMAT, IELTS. If you want to travel abroad, these are the exams you need to take for you to go and do your master's or whatever it is, a first degree. So that was what got me into education. Yeah, and then later on, I also started a PhD. I wanted to read my PhD. While I was in GBC
and teaching.
Wow. You see, when you are in the academia, you can't also be stagnant. You need to keep going. Yeah, because accreditation board wants terminal degrees, that's PhDs, in order for them to really even take you, so masters is not really respected in academia. You have to get a terminal degree. And so I had to apply Open University of Malaysia, and then they also have a learning center here, Accra Institute of Technology, and that's where I started my PhD in business administration, but focusing on media management. And so I started in 2015. But I noticed that I couldn't combine it with work because that also demanded a lot of time, It demanded a lot of time. So I had to just make a decision. So I'm now answering your question. We've gone round. But I'm answering the question right now. I had to make a decision as to what exactly is the way forward for you, Conrad Kakraba. You love teaching, you love media, but you have to make a compromise right now because you cannot combine the two. Yeah, it was difficult. So I had to just say, well, sometimes you need to just pull the brakes. You can be in the shining spots, and when the applause is loudest, that's when you have to get off the stage. If you stay till you would become somebody that nobody would care about. So I left when the applause was loudest. I left GBC when the applause was loudest. It was a heartbreaking news for a lot of people. I mean, I couldn't bear the feeling that I saw in my boss, the late Johnny Aite. I mean, he was the channel manager for GBC 24 at that time. And to send him, in fact, first of all, I had to pass it through Akushika Akwe. She was my immediate, show editor at that time. And I was like, Conrad, where are you going? And then immediately we had to match. She had to match me to, Johnny Haiti. He said, Conrad wants to leave. And I was like, oh my God. I couldn't say anything.
But asking you, why do you want to leave?
Because nobody understood. Why do you want to leave? You are only male newscaster. At that time, major news. I was the only male newscaster. Abdul at that time was doing some other things. I think, hosting some programs. Exactly, and all of that, other programs. So I was the only regular male newscaster for the major news. So for you to leave, it was going to be a big blow. But sometimes you just have to, to take some hard decisions. And my boss, he said, so I explained that I had to go to school. I had to continue the PhD and get it done. And I wasn't really getting the time to, they had to do all the compromises for me, but I said, well, for that time, I really wanted that peace of mind to be able to do it. And so I stepped out. And so for 1 year, I was just focusing on doing the PhD, and then I was teaching as well, on the side, but I was focusing on that.
Were people not asking you what happened with you and the GBC job and all that?
Yeah, I mean, everybody would ask. I mean, my hometown, there was a grand debate of the chiefs and people, and then somebody raised that topic. He said, their son, they have noticed that he has left GBC. He has announced that he has left GBC. And it was a big blow to my hometown. Oh. Yeah, it was. And I didn't have any explanations to give them. But I just had to let them know that I had to move on and get some other things done. I'll bounce back on the screens and I'll help the town in different ways. But I had to move on. I can't be at one place. So that was how I got out of GBC. It was terrible. But I had to.
But you had to. You believe in education so much. How important is education to the youth? You're still in your youthful days.
I'm 38. I've passed the age of being a young person. Yeah. The UN African Charter for young people. The youth, 35 years.
You are also doing something with the UN.
Oh, of course.
Okay.
That's a recent appointment. Yeah. Wow. Currently, I was appointed the Administrative Secretary for the Corporate Affairs Directorate of the United Nations Association, Ghana. Okay. I mean, every UN member state has a United Nations Association. Okay. So it's like the people's movement. Okay. Like how if you have the government of the day, you have the political party that galvanizes support for the... so the UN is there, but the UN normally works with intergovernmental, blah, 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 those, you know, big people.
Yeah, there are a lot of protocols.
But what they want to achieve is really with the grassroots. The grassroots. So the UNAs, the United Nations Associations, are the people's movement to bring that support to the UN development goals and all of the activities of the UN. So I was appointed as the administrative secretary, and then recently it was changed again to the media and then the public relations manager. So I'm the media and public relations manager of the UNA in Ghana. And then apart from that, as you asked, education. I'm so passionate about it. How important is it? Well, Nelson Mandela says something which for me summarizes education and its importance. He said, and I'm quoting, education is the greatest weapon to change the world.
Education
is the greatest weapon to change the world. And to me, that summarizes it all. If you are educated, if you are enlightened, if your mind is opened, if your eyes are opened, you will be able to do something about your situation, about yourself, and then about your community, your society, your nation, and then also the world. So to me, education is very, very important. And for young people especially, we must get education as much as we can. Formal education, non-formal education, or vocational, technical, education, and then also personal education, learning on our own and getting skills and all of that, learning online. We must be getting those things because those are the things that can help us in our personal development, in our mental, development, and then in our advancement as personalities that we want to be.
Now, how can someone identify career opportunities? Because you work a lot with students.
Yeah.
You mentor a lot of students and all that. Yeah. How will someone find out what he or she is wired for in terms of career?
So, first of all, you must do what we call exploration. You must explore. You must get to test many waters and just try to see what really works with you. So for me, as I said, while I was at Legon, I was doing several things just to try to see where exactly is my talent and skill. What am I really cut out for? So I was teaching, as I said. I was teaching while I was a student. I was teaching at Ideal College, and I was doing my personal classes. I was also writing, to see. In fact, I wrote my first book in SHS. It got published. Wow. Yeah, it got published just because I met somebody in my class in English department who was a printer, a publisher, and then she published it for me. That was Conquering Your World, Principles for Overcoming and Shining Wherever You Are. And then, I was also doing acting.
You were acting?
I was acting.
You can act?
Every talkative person can act. So I went for auditions. I
can't imagine you in a movie.
Oh, yeah. So I told you that I was in the same class with Lydia Forson.
Oh, okay.
We read English, and then Yvonne Okoro.
Wow.
We were in the same English class. So we were all going for auditions and all of that. They were going for next movie star, something. And, you know, they chose that path and they hit big. You know, I withdrew because I saw that I couldn't keep up. Hey! Lydia Forson had to defer 1 year.
Wow.
So we finished in 4 years. She came to finish the 5th year.
Wow.
So those were some of the sacrifices. Acting, because she had to go to Nigeria or somewhere to go and be part of the next movie star or something like that. Those were some of the sacrifices they had to do. Yvonne Okoro had to come to me, like I'm in Conrad. You know, all the notes I was taking from the lectures to come and then copy them and study and all of that. It isn't easy, man. If you see people have hit big, they have gone through a lot. It's not easy. But Yvonne is brilliant. You know, Lydia is brilliant. Wow. So small touch, they are good. And so you have to know what it is you want. Be prepared to make the necessary sacrifices. Don't think it will come on a silver platter, because opportunities will come and go. But you must be ready to put your best foot forward when the time is right. And so I tried acting. You know, I saw that no, I couldn't keep up with this team. And then, you know, I did some preaching as well. I was interested in preaching. I was an evangelism leader at church, and I loved the feeling, you know. And then I also tried poetry. I won poetry awards, performances, you know, at the A4 Sutherland Drama Studio, you know, under the tutelage of Kofi Awuno and Kofi Anyudoho, all of those, you know.
Also, do you meet Professor Kofi Awuno?
They were my lecturers.
Great man.
Yeah, Kofi Awuno taught me creative writing.
He's a serious poet.
Exactly, and you know, may his soul rest in peace. You know, he was my, and then in the same class with Lydia as well. We did creative writing together, and then so I did a lot of things. I did student politics as well. I was elected the president of the English Students Association. So I campaigned, you know, and I won, you know, on Legon campus. And so I was testing a lot of things to see which one I was really, really interested in, or I was really good at. So, and then I told you that I went to Radio Universe as well to do media. So all of these things happened in the space of 4 years. But I was really making myself exploring, I should say. I was just exploring to see what I was good at. And later on, what I was good at really popped out. And then, so that was teaching. I narrowed down to teaching, and narrowed down to media later on, and then also preaching as well. So I had to come to Bible school and and become a preacher. Wow. You know, so
you see why you are the one I'm supposed to talk to about education.
Well, look at that. so young people ought to explore. They need to try things out. They need to talk to people as well.
Okay.
They need to meet people. They need to find out from people what it takes to get here, to do this. Read biographies, autobiographies. I love them. Autobiographies of people, to see their journeys. I love documentaries, autobiographical or biographical documentaries, to learn about people's lives and all the things, the corners they had to pass before they became who they were. That is how you have to, you know, go as a young person. And then also attend seminars. I was at every seminar that was organized on Legon campus, you know. Wow. Unless I don't hear about it, I will go and hear some. Just listen, and then you pick 1 or 2 lessons. You meet some people, and they can show you that, okay, this is the way to go, this is not the way to go. So that's how young people should explore their capabilities or opportunities for career.
Okay, but do you think the educational system in Ghana helps? It's always helping.
Well, in discovering career opportunities and in living people's potentials, I think that it's helpful in a way, but there's still a lot we can do. Because when you compare us to the creme de la creme in education, the Finland, the Singapore, Malaysia, Korea, South Korea, China, and all of that, America, Canada, you know, UK, we are just down there because we haven't really stretched to the limits of our potentials in developing education. We haven't focused on STEM education, the science, technology, and all of that, engineering and mathematics. And then, so there are people whose fields those are. We must get them in there and help them with all the tools and machinery, robotics, or whatever it is that can help them to really do the best in those fields. we haven't also exposed our people to new ways of solving problems. We just organized a program at Heritage Christian College recently. I mean, I'm a lecturer here, and the Heritage Christian College owns the TV station Truth TV, and we just held a program called Impact Week. Impact Week. You know,
the pictures amazing.
Amazing. Impact Week, and I was privileged to be the lead local organizer. You know, and we had 29 international coaches and organization team members coming from across the world, 10 countries, and they came over to come and help us to learn design thinking. And I feel that as a country, we can do a lot more in exposing people to these newer ways of approaching problems and also becoming more practical. Basically, that's what I think our education system needs more.
We'll surely have to do a part 2 of this. We have to do a part 2.
Good.
So, Mr. Conrad owns us a part 2. He owns us a part 2.
No problem. I'm ready.
What's your final advice to young people on education?
My final advice is take education seriously. If you haven't been to formal school, don't think that you are not cut out for any excellence. You are. Take whatever it is that you have learned seriously. If it's plumbing, carpentry, whatever, fashion design, take it seriously and learn how to package it very well, and also position yourself, your craft, and be able to make the best out of it. If you've been through formal education, whatever skill it is that you have acquired, that's not the end of it. There are better ways of doing the thing. Go learn some more. Go expose yourself and get the best from the world's best as well. Online, social media, we have a whole library here, and we're just sleeping on social media. We need to use it, tap its potential for our growth and development. Thank you.
Christian University.
Okay, so
those who want to know about.
So Heritage Christian University College, we are in Amasaman, Accra. We are just behind the Olympic Stadium. It is a university that has come to fill a missing gap or a missing link in the delivery of higher education. And that's about the fact that we need to let our students, or whoever it is that is going through our training, to really solve problems, to create businesses, entrepreneurship. That's one of our key focus that we really stress on. The fact that there are no jobs in the system, but people must create jobs because there are several opportunities, several problems, therefore there can be several jobs. So we focus on entrepreneurship a lot, and then ethics is also missing in our country. We do things and then there's corruption, there's all of that, and it's draining all our progress. And then also technology advancement. We focus on technology a lot. Every student uses a laptop. It's mandatory. If you don't have one, the school sells you at cost, and then you use it because you don't want to be doing a lot of printing and photocopying and all of that. And then finally, the university is accredited by GTEC, that's the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, and then affiliated to KNUST. So your degrees come from KNUST, but with a touch. Then our students are also positioned in order for them to be globally competent. Wherever they go, they should match up with the best. So that's about Heritage Christian College. Our admissions are in January, April, and in October. And for you to get admitted, you can go to our website, Heritage Christian College, or www.hcuc.edu.gh. Or you can call this number 020-67-30-38-2. 020-67-30-38-2. That's my number. You can reach out.
All right.
Thank you
so much. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
So much.
Yeah.
We definitely have to do a part 2 of this conversation because there's a lot to talk about in education. A lot. And also for those who want to enter into media. And all
we can have opportunities for them as well.
We should. So we'll have to end this conversation here. We will continue some other time. I trust you have been impacted. I trust you have been inspired. My name is Felix Dadzie. I was here with Mr. Conrad Kakraba, and I trust that you have learned a lot. I'll see you same time on our next episode. Don't forget what I say always. Your mind is the most powerful tool that God has given you. Make sure you don't waste it. I'll see you some other time. Bye-bye.